The next step in our evolution. More powerful, more beautiful. I think I shall call him Adam.
Nothing but wit to save the world. Save the world.
Adam.
Wit saves the world.
Assemble.
All right, well, how about one of these? 3, 2, 1.
Cheers, dog.
Cheers.
I'm Adam,
I'm Witte.
and this is Adam and Witte Save the World.
Saves the world. Drag me a little bit to the left and we're good.
Okay. Adam and Witte Save the World.
What episode is this? 7? Is this
I think
7?
we're on 7.
Yeah. Which is...
You should have left.
You should have left. I heard about this movie like a week before it came out. I knew nothing about this.
Yeah, I saw the trailer on Instagram, and I think I sent it to you, and that was the first time I had heard of it.
Go ahead and ring the Bloomhouse alarm.
Yeah, big surprise there.
Yeah, we're back on Bloomhouse. We may have... I didn't think about it. If we're on 7 now, wait, Fantasy Island.
The Hunt.
What was the first one? The Hunt. Fantasy Island, The Hunt. This one. Is there another one?
Invisible Man.
Invisible Man. So we are now
4 for 7.
4 for 7 Bloomhouse. Jason Bloomhouse, if you're listening. Adam, you should have left 2020. Internet here says, strange events plague a couple and their young daughter when they rent a secluded countryside house that has a dark past. Ooh.
And boy, does it have a dark past.
Adam, who's in this movie? Tell me about these people.
Wow, Witte. It's like we've got like a layout of exactly how we're going to do this. And we're just so good.
There's like a rhythm. There's like a flow. Who has Mr. Blum served us up this time?
Well, this may be a big surprise, but we've got one Kevin Bacon.
Gotta love Kevin Bacon.
Shouts out to Kevin Bacon. You know, he's been, obviously, he's a big actor, famously from Footloose. He was in the Tremors movie. But the last movie I really remember him being in, which I know he's been in some since then, again, because he's an actor, but it was X-Men First Class, which also seemed like such a strange movie for him to be in.
Yeah. I mean, I think that was my thought when I first saw him in this one. It's just like, Kevin Bacon, what did you get yourself roped into?
Yeah. The other person in this movie is Amanda Seyfried, who plays a character named Susanna.
Is that how you say it? Seyfried? I'm going to Google this, by the way, and make sure that's how you say her last name. I'm going to go to YouTube, and I'm just going to type in Amanda, and I'm just going to spell her name. I'm going to get her introduced here on a late show with Stephen Colbert.
Okay.
Hey everybody, welcome back. Welcome back. Ladies and gentlemen, what a treat for you. You know my first guest tonight from Mean Girls and Mamma Mia. Please welcome Amanda Seyfried.
Seyfried!
What?
Amanda Seyfried, Adam. I can't believe you were saying Seyfried. That's so embarrassing.
I feel like I say this way too often when we're talking about these Blumhouse movies, but another classic Blumhouse thing is there's not a ton of actors in this movie, or at least main characters.
Super small film in terms of cast, like smaller than other Blumhouse movies even.
Yeah, and I mean even the budget. Usually, you know, the budget's kind of like $7 to $9 million. The budget for this one's only $4 million, which again, $4 million is still a lot of money, but it is small in terms of making movie magic.
I'm already forgetting how to say her name correctly again. Seyfried.
The other actress in this movie plays the little girl Ella, and the actress' name is Avery Essex. The only other acting credit I found of theirs was for an episode of Modern Family last year in 2019.
I feel like child actors are such a tough thing, right? They have to be good at acting, which is obviously really difficult as a child, but also they have to like be convincing children still.
For sure.
And like when this little girl at the beginning of the movie is like running crazy through the house and she's all excited and jumping on beds, it felt like it felt so authentic. I think actually that's something that Seyfried that Amanda and Kevin Bacon, I'd say actually Ella and Susanna, the characters, more than Kevin Bacon's Theo. they felt very real and authentic to me
Oh, yeah.
through the movie. I noted that multiple times through the watching.
It may have helped with like a kind of small cast like that it was maybe more of a family feel to it anyway, you know?
Right.
So it just kind of naturally could happen. But yeah, I definitely agree that the two, Amanda and or Suzanne and Ella, both do like a really good job, especially Ella. We'll talk about it, obviously throughout the review. The movie was directed by a guy named David Cope, which he's directed a few movies here and there. Predominantly, he's known for writing. He did the first Mission Impossible, Jurassic Park 1 and 2. He did the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man.
Okay.
But more fun for us, he did Tom Cruise, The Mummy.
Want to talk about this movie?
Yeah, I guess let's go ahead and just dive in there, right?
Tales of Airbnb gone wrong.
It starts off, we get like a weird dream that this little girl is having, which we soon find out is one of the main characters named Ella. And there's this like kind of scary shadow thing kind of bopping around her room,
Just hanging out.
We get this like creepy old man, and there's a lot of weird one-liners in this movie. The old man kind of like tells her she can't breathe, and then she can't breathe. She's got some sort of like magic powers or whatever. He says, "Don't curse unless you want to be cursed," and I don't know why that was really funny to me.
It's a sin. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's strange. This movie does a really strange amount of like paranormal activity, I guess. Is he a ghost? Is he what is he? I don't know. They don't really tell you at first, obviously.
Yeah. Well, at first I guess it's all supposed to be a dream because she has the dream, but then we realize it's Kevin Bacon having the dream, and then he wakes up and the guy's still there. So it's like we get a weird Inception thing where we're like a dream and a dream and a dream.
Pretty standard move. Doing that kind of double wake up fake out thing. I have no idea how close this actually is to the book, having not read it, obviously. Yeah. But I thought that was interesting. I did just a little bit of research on the book, and it just seemed to be all based around that idea of kind of getting stuck on specific details and kind of expanding things out into these fictionalized realities. And I don't know, the movie just felt like it kind of was throwing generic classic dream sequence jump scares at us,
Yeah, and that could be part of the reason why it, again, it may be harder to translate because you're watching it and you've got to, obviously you can't have a whimsical scene happening because you have to show it to the audience.
Right, yeah. The book can just leave so much more to your imagination.
I guess now is as good a time as any to do our classic spoiler alert.
Ooh. Our world-famous spoiler alert?
Yeah, that the fans are just waiting for when it's going to pop in. Are we going to be halfway through the movie before we decide to let them know we're going to start spoiling the movie? Or do we maybe give them a little taste, and then before we get into anything too big, we go, oh, by the way, we're jumping in now, like, we're back to reality. We're now starting to, like, get some background on these characters. Again, kind of small cast, so the beginning of the movie is big on trying to build up this family dynamic. They do a pretty good job on it.
I like it, yeah.
Kevin Bacon plays a guy named Theo Conroy. Amanda
Seyfried
played a character named Susanna. And they kind of just, in the beginning, go ahead and let you know. There's a big age gap. She sits on his lap after she gets out of the pool, calls him old man, tells him he needs to be careful about his skin. A lot of, like, old man can't have sex jokes throughout the movie.
He does look a lot older than her.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. And Susanna is his wife, right?
Yes.
Susanna's his wife, Ella's his daughter.
With her.
With her. We
Yes.
have to imply with her. I don't think the movie's quite here yet, but he does have a previous wife.
Yes. So we immediately jump to, and it kind of gives us the idea that there may be some trouble in paradise already, but she's an actress and is on set filming a movie, and so he goes to visit her to bring her coffee, and when he gets there, I don't know if you noticed it, but on the hat for the, like, guy running, like, who's like the security or whatever,
His
it says
Furious 7 hat. Yeah,
which is a
I have
real
no
movie.
idea.
They even call him, like, I think they call him, like, Jimmy, but it's like James Wan is the guy who directed Furious 7, and they talk about the guy being a creep and, like, he's not from here, he doesn't think there's enough sex in American cinema, and that's, James Wan is not natively American, like,
Right.
I don't know, it felt weird, but again, the movie just came out, so there's no, like, there's nothing on the internet that really talks about it.
Well, James Wan has done many Blumhouse films, right?
Yeah.
Like he's a frequent Blumhouse collaborator.
Yeah,
So,
so
I saw the hat and thought
maybe
like,
this is some joke.
Just a little shout out, but yeah, maybe just more of an in joke at Blumhouse or something like that.
Theo walks up. Zana's like having a sex scene in a car, and the guy's kind of just like, you can't come on set, you know?
It is a funny scene, right? Like,
yeah.
He's just kind of sitting there trying to talk to his wife while she's filming a sex scene in the car or something like that.
Yeah, a little awkward.
Yeah.
This kind of is gearing up to one, he's a bit jealous of her career, and then she's got like assistants that she thinks that he's into or that she's into.
Right.
And then like we kind of find out that people don't really like Theo, that he's got kind of a dangerous past, and people don't like that Zan's with him. Like, you know,
Right. He says that he thinks he wasn't allowed to see her or speak to her because they recognized who he was.
Exactly.
They're not telling the audience what the problem is yet, but yeah, implying that he's got some sort of past he's a bit ashamed of and that's public.
Mm-hmm. She's got a film in London for some parts of this movie that she's in, so they're going to go to London a few weeks early, kind of hang out in the village.
A little family time. It seems like they need it.
Yeah, so they kind of have a little bit of personal time.
Yeah, and his like jealousy stuff is played off as pretty minor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it seems kind of just like classic guy. No one wants to see their girl film a sex scene with some other thing. Like I think at this point in the movie, they're not really laying it.
It feels
on
pretty
thick,
light,
but it's there, and it slowly
we find out
starts
that
to escalate.
He's listening to like self-help tapes, and he's going to therapy, and he's writing in a journal, and so. He's got some things that he's working through. So they decide they're going to move out to the countryside, live there for a little bit, find a place on like a Airbnb knockoff, maybe Verbo, who knows. So they get to the house. It's on a big piece of land.
Oh,
and
sick.
Everyone seems to be really into it.
Modern, it's huge. Feels like it's bigger on the inside than the outside.
Yeah.
It's got all this great stuff going on.
Their first night in the house, Theo decides that he's going to go through the house and start turning off all the lights. And he goes down this like crazy long maze of hallways and rooms, and every one he tries to turn the light off, and like the switches aren't really working. They kind of say earlier that
there's
the
loads
AC may
of
not
switches too, right? Like he's hitting like 12 switches and then walking into the next room and there's 12 more.
Yeah, so you already
Yeah.
feel like something's happening, and they kind of show that he's supposed to get back upstairs and hang out with Susie while she's in the bed, and we're gonna watch like whatever TV show they're watching, and it keeps showing it's like 10:45 or it's 10:44, 10:45. At night, and so he's going through doing all these lights, and he finally gets back up, and like obviously when he leaves the room, the lights are coming back on. That's a whole thing. We found a picture of some old man in like a dungeon that they kind of gloss over pretty quickly. Like I feel like if I found that, I'd be like, you probably
just
move
a
already.
photograph, and he has like a pretty good like nope moment. Like found the photo and is just kind of like, all right, that's a little too.
He
much.
leaves
I'm
that
outta
light. He
here.
doesn't even try to turn that light off. He
Yeah.
leaves it on.
It's always a pain when you're watching a horror movie and they're just not doing the smart, obvious thing.
Yeah.
This movie does have a couple moments that I kind of laughed at in a good way of just like, I think there's one point later where they're talking about leaving the house and they're just like, yeah, this is kind of freaky. Let's just get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
Like, we're done.
And
It's like, thank
kind of
you.
what's happened. They start losing time. After turning off all those lights, it goes from like 10:45 and it's 3:11 in the morning.
Yeah. He thought that he was down there for just a couple of minutes, right?
Yeah,
He was
and
like,
he'd
what?
been
You're
like-
already asleep? And
Yeah. And so everyone in the house will start already having weird dreams. Like, it kind of happens pretty quickly. Theo goes to go get some stuff from the store, and while he's out, Susie and Ella finally have a conversation and gives us a little bit more exposition on Theo and his dangerous past. Apparently, he had a wife prior, and she killed herself in the tub, took some medicine, accidentally fell asleep, and drowned. It may have been an accidental suicide, but people blamed Theo for not helping or maybe killing her and then putting her in the tub, like, because apparently they had some kind of a rocky marriage anyway, and he's a famous banker and was already kind of in the news and in the public eye, so it only made that worse.
right.
So that's kind of,
I think that's the big part, right? It's really framed to the audience as, we know he didn't do this, but because he's wealthy and popular and stuff, people are after his money. And
yeah.
and without getting too far ahead of ourselves, like, do you buy that at this point? Like, there's just that part of, as the audience member, you're watching a horror movie.
Yeah,
and you just told
but
me that one of the main characters, that I'm forced to believe that one of the main characters is accused of killing somebody but didn't do it. And
Yeah.
like, the movie just kind of blankly tells you he didn't do it, but I don't think they did a really great job of trying to make
they kind of
think
show
so.
that he's got these anger issues and stuff, so I guess you don't really know. But yeah, it doesn't seem to be that well hidden. But yeah, so she's asking all these questions. Yeah, again, we don't really know as the audience, but that's one thing I was going to say about this little girl and her job in the movie. She does a really good job, and like again, I don't know if this is like they kind of struck gold, if it's strictly writing, or if it was like a nice culmination of the two. But she is like the vehicle for exposition as well as like the audience. Like most of her reactions
Right.
throughout the movie and all of her questions are things that the audience would have, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I guess I never really thought about it like that, but that seems pretty true. Yeah, I mean, I guess kids are like a good use for that in movies in general.
Yeah, so while the two are having this conversation, Theo's gone to the store. We don't really know where they're at, but it's kind of a small town in London. There's just like one little convenience store, and the shopkeeper kind of asks him like, "Oh, so you're up at the house?" And Theo's like, "Yeah, you know, we're just staying here for a little bit." And they asked if they met Stetler yet. And Stetler is the person that they rented the house from and talked to him online and everything. And that, you know, yeah, I guess he's like the Airbnb host that you would kind of expect to meet when you get
Right.
there. And Theo's like, no, I haven't, we haven't talked to him. And the guy's like, okay, well, he's seen you. Before he leaves the store, the old man gives him a triangle to then measure the 90-degree angles in the house.
Right.
And they don't
Right.
really use that for anything until, the last like 25 minutes of the movie.
So that I think that felt really strange to me in the movie.
Yeah.
And not in like a good horror movie way, but just I was a little confused by it. I think that is a pretty direct quote from the book. It looks
Okay.
like after looking that up, that the man gives him the triangle.
Which, I like those scenes in the beginning, but yeah, it is weird that they kind of quickly. So he gets out and he meets this old woman by his car, and she's just kind of asking questions like, you shouldn't be there. You got to be careful. Have you seen anything? And everyone's just being kind of creepy. And I did like that because, again, it kind of is doing exposition in a fun way. But it does feel like they're kind of just like, this house is creepy, like.
Yeah, and I mean, at this point in the movie, still like, okay, so I know that he had like a weird dream at the beginning, and they've been kind of implying that figure, that creepy old man, is like still around, right? The house is kind of confusing, and they're getting kind of lost in places, or they're wandering down tunnels, and it seems like the doors take them to different places than it did before. At this point, I'm still just like, this guy doesn't feel like a ghost, right? Like, I'm not seeing like the ghost of this guy's dead wife haunting him.
Yeah.
I'm just so confused at this point. I think that it's both to the benefit and the detriment of the movie, but like I'm when I'm watching Paranormal Activity or something, I can personify this to some degree. There's a ghost over there, there's a demon over there or something. Yeah, at this point in the movie, I'm still just like, what is happening? Like, I
don't know. It felt reminiscent of like the more atmospheric horror movies, which I like, where things are just spooky. They're not necessarily spooky things are happening, right? But then at the same time, you can tell that they're trying to add certain elements for the sake of, again, a general audience, where it felt like they were kind of dancing some lines depending on like what kind of movie they wanted to be. And the movie felt slow where it needed to, but then felt rushed in places that it didn't need to be. And even though it did kind of feel like a slow burn, and you've got these, again, like you were saying, you've got these dreams that are leading you from, is this real? Is this a dream? Which, is a big premise apparently of the book as well. It does tend to jump around a lot, and sometimes it's good and sometimes it doesn't really work. It feels a little forced.
Yeah.
But yeah, he gets back from the store. We've got some trouble in paradise for the young couple, which no one can see my finger quotes there, but that was a dig at how old Kevin Bacon is. But he's, classic old man's upset that the youths are always on their phone. And so to help his relationship, as anybody should do, he decides to start going through Susie's phone, iPad, and laptop, figure out if she's cheating on him, which, always helps. Doesn't find anything, but he still can't sleep. So he decides to go downstairs and go into his journal, but then he falls asleep, wakes back up, and there's a new note in his journal that he doesn't remember writing.
And what does that note say, Adam?
It says, "You should have left."
Ba-ba-da-ba.
Wow, 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 wow. Yeah, we'll throw the
And
alarms here.
scene.
This
Yeah.
is the name
yeah,
drop
I
of
mean,
the movie. We love it. He kind of decides to like walk around. He finds this weird basement down the staircase that he didn't know was there before, and finds a bunch of Polaroids all over the floor of his family. And he finds his daughter Ella drowned in the bathtub. Trying to get the water out of her.
Well, it's pretty nightmarish. Yeah, he wakes up after realizing it must be a dream, slitting his own dream wrists, and then that's still not waking him up, so slits his own dream throat, right?
Yeah.
So again, if the book is all about blending this dream versus reality or whatever, I guess that's like your tiny little bit of like, is it dream? Is it reality? He's trying to wake up. He's not waking up. But
being an audience member, I kept thinking it was going to be that he's doing that and is accidentally killing someone in real life. You know, every time we have like a weird dream sequence like that, I was waiting for that classic twist, you know?
Right, where you kind of smack him out of it and he thought he was holding his dead daughter, but maybe it's his daughter he killed or someone else or something like that. Yeah, they never really quite land on that. Yeah, Susie and Ella are saying that they're having weird dreams too. Maybe not quite to the level of Mr. Kevin Bacon, but they seem to be going through their own stuff as well.
Yeah, everyone kind of decides at the same time, like, I don't like this house actually. Let's just get out of here.
Yeah,
Which doesn't ever happen.
Very refreshing in a movie about a haunted house to just have them be like, this sucks, so let's just go.
And especially because they don't own it, right? They're rich. Like, it's not one of those situations where, like, we're in financial turmoil. There's no way we could sell this now. Like,
right. It's not their home. They're not trapped there.
Yeah,
they're rich
even if you
people
can't
in
get
an
your
Airbnb.
money back, you lose, like, I don't know. It's a huge house. You probably lose, like, a couple of grand. But, I mean,
those
what is
guys
that?
don't care.
Yeah.
Go on to the next one.
Yeah. But, you know, it would be way too easy. The movie would be over. We're only, like, a quarter of the way into the movie. Well, how would we end it there? So as they're getting ready to leave, Theo, there's a weird scene where he, like, finds her phone and then looks up and sees that she's on her phone at the same time.
Right.
We realize that she's got two phones.
Yeah. Again, the movie has been like I feel like in a very tiny, passive way, just kind of hinting at this. It's been played more as a joke that Kevin Bacon's just a little insecure about his age and his relationship. He's nervous that she is into somebody else, but he, not enough to believe that he's not overthinking it and crazy.
Right.
And yet she gets some confirmation at this point. Yeah, she's kind of been two-timing him the whole time.
We have a weird scene where so Susie's left. Theo says he needs some time, that she needs to leave. So she goes to go find like a hotel in town or whatever.
Right. They kind of instantly rebuff how smart they were about this shitty haunted house.
Yeah.
Because they were going to leave and then got in a fight, and so Kevin Bacon says, I'm just going to keep the place to myself tonight.
Yeah, because he's instantly over whatever spooky things were happening because obviously we've got real life stuff going on.
It's just blaming it all on that, yeah.
Yeah. But then, then the house decides to start popping off. There's a weird scene where,
Really
Ella drops a
popping
glass of water and it, is forming into weird little bubbles, like the floor maybe a little off, but,
Yeah, it's more confusing than anything, but it's evident to Mr. Kevin Bacon that the floor is not perfectly flat.
Yeah, and so he gets the triangle and he starts realizing that a lot of the rooms aren't 90 degrees.
It's confusing.
They decide to go out and measure. They measure the inside of the house and measure the outside of the house, and they realize, oh, wow, this place is bigger on the inside,
Yeah, I think they said he measures it as 21 feet from the outside, but 25 feet on the inside.
Yeah, it was like a 5 or 6 foot difference.
The walls look like they're 90 degrees when you're in there, but when you put that triangle up against the wall, the degrees just don't add up.
Right.
Yeah.
So Ella goes missing. Somehow has ended up in that creepy basement that Theo had in his dream that one night.
Yeah, I think even from the window, they show her effectively run into a door that is not there.
Yeah, it doesn't exist
when he goes back into the room. Yeah.
Yeah.
They do that really cool thing where they kind of have the camera follow her running through the house from the outside windows. She runs from one room to the next and just doesn't come out in the other room.
It's a good shot.
Yeah. Yeah, for the lack of explanation or understanding of what's going on with the house. The visuals are pretty cool.
Yeah.
I do like the kind of trippy, almost like MC Escher, like open one door and then turn around and it's not the room you came out of anymore.
For sure.
I guess this is that line still where the dreams are starting to become a little bit more real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When it's starting to affect other people, where they're actually having if it is a dream, they're both in the same dream.
She's experiencing it, and when he does eventually find her and they reunite, this is not a wake up from sleeping situation.
No, this is just they're now back here. The little girl finds a bathtub in this basement, and the dead wife is there in the tub, and then that creepy old man from her dream in the beginning, or Theo's dream, we don't really know. He's there and just
being a weirdo. He doesn't seem like he's really doing anything in particular.
No, he's just kind of there, and he just has a bunch of weird one-liners. You want to live with your daddy forever?
They're all very consistent. He doesn't really conversate, right? He just drops those quotes.
Yeah. Theo and Ella meet up and start devising a plan on what do we need to do to get out of here. So we call the old shopkeep, try to get some answers from him. And the guy's just giving us now the exposition on the house. And it's just legend has it, it's the devil's house. We've got pictures on the wall that have started popping up of the past souls that this guy started to take.
It's so confusing, right? He calls the shop guy looking for a taxi.
Yeah.
The shop guy's like, "What's a taxi?" Or whatever. We don't do that around here.
Yeah.
Then just really chose not to give him this information when he was in the store, but now feels very free and welcome to do that huge exposition dump. I think he says that the house is kind of destroyed and rebuilt all the time.
Yeah.
They said that town legend is that the devil built the house and that God keeps destroying it, but that the devil keeps rebuilding
Which
it.
they don't really go into it at all, because the exposition kind of ends there for the lore of the house, but it does kind of feel like that classic, small town knows this is happening and knows that sacrifices have to be made, so they just let unsuspecting people come in, because they'd rather it be strangers than anyone in this, community.
Right, yeah, he's so fine with it, and really writes it off as it's the house's call now.
Yeah, good luck getting out of there.
Strange again, right? We're talking about what I guess you would call a haunted house, but I feel like 9 times out of 10, a haunted house in a movie is a personification of the people that were killed there or something like that. This is just bad, angry architecture for no real reason.
Yeah, and then we may have a creepy old dude in the house.
But even creepy old dude is who is he? If the devil, I guess he's the devil. If the devil built this house, Stetson's the devil.
Assume.
Why have we been calling him Stetson at all in this movie? Where did this name come from?
Yeah, I guess I was trying to figure out in my head, is this an anagram for something, or but yeah, who knows?
They do also say when Kevin and Susie are fighting, they one point they argue is that they never should have come to the house, and they can't figure out which one of them originally shared the house with the other one. Sounds like the house found them. I think she says earlier in the movie she booked it, but neither of them remember being the one to find the house in the first place.
We got to leave the house. We can't get in touch with Susie. There's no taxi. We decide we're gonna walk to town. It's a 4-mile drive, so we'll just walk there.
Not fun. Seems like it's cold, but they both are pretty in agreement that it's better than
probably the
staying in
best.
the house.
Which again, I love this little girl character. She there's a scene where he's trying to open the door because he's kind of freaking out, and she was like, "Why don't you just unlock the door?" And we realize that he's we think that the door won't let them leave, but he just has forgotten to unlock
panicked.
it.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah.
And then as they're leaving the house, there's a creepy shadow figure just kind of staring at them from the living room, as they're walking down the driveway path. And that's kind of the first time we really see the shadow creature in that regard. And so as they're walking, I mean, obviously you probably assumed that this would happen, but they've been walking for hours probably at this point and have done the 4 miles. They start seeing lights. Come to find out they've somehow ended up back at the house. And again, this little girl is on top of it. And it's just we were walking down the whole time, down the hill. How were we back at the house?
Right. And even we keep talking about it, the little girl is a great voice of reason, right?
She's just not having it.
I think she has to be from the movie's point of view because Kevin Bacon's character is is the kind of unreliable, he's not a narrator, but unreliable protagonist.
Yeah.
You know, you can't quite trust that maybe he did lead them the wrong way, and he says we went downhill, and that's not true. But she very quickly is like, no, we only went downhill.
Yeah,
this isn't okay.
Yeah. Even her being like kind of freezing, half asleep, she's just like, please don't put me back in the house. I'd rather be outside, let's sleep outside. But
Yeah.
Kevin Bacon, trying to be a good dad, is like, hey, we got to go back inside. We'll
He
sleep
kind of
here for
gets
the
real
night.
with her at one point because she really doesn't want to go in there, and he just kind of tells her up front, like, we will not make it
We'll
through
die.
the night if we stay
Yeah.
out here.
Kevin Bacon decides to get up, and he walks into the bathroom, and now he's back in the dungeon. Back in another, like, dream world. You see the dead wife here. She kind of attacks him, and she's being creepy, like, throws
He
up water
promised
on
he
him.
wasn't going to step away, man.
Yeah.
And the doors are sneaky. You got to keep an eye out for these doors, Kevin Bacon. And
Yeah, stay in the same room. If you're going to leave, take the little girl with you, you know?
He specifically said, I'm not going to leave you for the rest of the night.
Bad
And then
dad.
Yeah, bad dad.
We get into, like, the weird kind of, like, paradox territory where Kevin Bacon walks into the room, and it's Kevin Bacon sleeping at his desk. He gets up to walk away, and so present-day Kevin Bacon, instead of past Kevin Bacon, walks over to the journal and writes, you should, like, leave the house.
Right. It's like the doors were, I guess we saw them mess with time a little bit towards the front of the movie. But,
Yeah.
But yeah, it seems like now instead of just taking him to different places, it's taking him through different times that he's been in the house.
It's him writing it to his past self to try to warn them. And then, yeah, he ends up being that shadow figure that we mentioned earlier that was in the living room when they were walking down the driveway. Kevin Bacon ends up being that shadow figure and watches them walk down the driveway. So,
Right.
like, there's no real payoff there, but it is showing that, like, again, the house is kind of, like, got its own area of time that it controls and is in flux constantly.
Yeah, I mean, there's this Stetson character still in the wings somewhere, but this is implying that a lot of the kind of figures or ghostly-ish things that have happened in the background have just been Kevin Bacon, you know, kind of running through the house at this point in the movie.
And then we get, like, a weird, like, Ella is stuck in the wall as, like, a shadow puppet, which is, like, I guess a callback to the beginning of the movie. And she can't get out of the wall unless Kevin Bacon does what this guy wants. So he grabs Stetler's crutch that he's been using for the whole movie, starts beating Stetler with it. And every time
Really
he hits him,
getting
his
him.
face starts changing. We get a big reveal that Stetler looks just like Kevin Bacon.
Not really for any, it's not like implying that he has been or is Kevin Bacon. I think, the implication is that this is the devil, right?
But then it kind of goes from, like, making you think it's the devil. Kevin Bacon then realizes that this is just a shadow of himself and that he's been running from it this whole time. So it kind of
It's
makes you
really
start wondering, is the
confusing.
house, has it been supernatural? Like,
Yeah, but then later on he's going to tell his wife that the house isn't going to let him leave.
yeah, so that's the thing, right? So he's able, once he decides that, like, oh, the devil is me, maybe I'm, like, my own devil. I guess I was trying to, like, just put together what this is.
Write those
But
lyrics down.
Susie comes back with the car. He puts Ella in the car, and he just tells her that he could have saved his wife, his ex-wife. That he just kind of sat there and watched the woman drown and didn't help her because he felt stuck. And that the whole time, though, any time before that, he was angry because he should have left, and he didn't.
Right. Yeah, and again, like, is this a big twist for you? Like,
I start to think, like, is this all some sort of metaphor? Again, because it has that atmospheric feeling of a movie.
Sure.
Which you get into things like The Babadook or The Witch, where, like, yes, creepy things are happening, but it's not actually about the creepy things happening. It's more about the introspective of man and how you handle things like depression or, like, crazy hysteria through religion.
I think we got into that conversation a good bit on our The Hunt review, as well as our Invisible Man review, just about how those movies are kind of just formats for telling some story of coping with trauma that someone's going through. Yeah, it's a little confusing. Like, you know, there's that part in the movie towards the beginning where Susie is telling Ella that, you know, the backstory of Kevin Bacon's character and how the people think that he's murdered his wife, but he hasn't really done it. You're watching a horror movie, and your only real options at that point are that he has or has not done it. The movie wants you to think he's done it, so the real obvious twist seems to be that he has done it.
Which,
you know,
we have the scenes with the little girl, but, most of the movie is through Theo's perspective. So again, it's just kind of like, it may be translated better in the book, but I then start thinking like, was this, I mean, obviously creepy things have happened, but was most of this supposed to be in his head? Especially if it ends up, this isn't actually some sort of devil house, or is it a devil house? Because at the end of the movie, he then admits to the skeletons in his closet. And it's like, this is his way of redemption, or in a roundabout way. Like, he doesn't deserve the happiness that he has.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's definitely his arc for sure, right? Like,
Yeah.
by the end there, he's deciding that he doesn't deserve this perfect, happy family that he's been given. He's kind of implied the whole time that he doesn't think he, deserves his wife or that he deserves his daughter. I think that that's sort of the root of a lot of that jealousy that he's showing at the start of that movie is just the idea in the back of his mind that she should be with someone else. She shouldn't be with this monster that he is.
Right.
Yeah, he drops that to her. I feel like this scene is like the worst acting in the movie. I feel like the movie was really well done, and I
Kevin Bacon's
didn't
part in
buy
this
it from
was-
anyone.
If I had any problem with the movie, it's probably the ending.
Yeah.
Because after we have this conversation, it's like we then cut, and it shows the like Airbnb screen, and all of a sudden it switches from unavailable to available for rent. It's showing that like the house is ready for its next victim. I don't know. I kind of would have liked a scene after that to give us a little bit more exposition as to like, because again, they kind of gear up to maybe the devil thing isn't real, that it's just him, and it was him fighting his own devil. But then like with the house becoming available for rent again,
yeah, the house is available again. I don't know. I think that a lot of that goes to there's a way that's done effectively in a lot of horror movies. This movie, it felt to me like they didn't quite know the story they were trying to tell, I guess. I felt like the ending of this one fell a little flat. I enjoyed the characters. I enjoyed the movie. I enjoyed that mystery I was describing of like, well, we're not really doing like a ghost thing, so like what's really going on here,
which they do have hints of a ghost thing. There's a lot happening in the movie.
A little bit, but the inclusion of this Stetson character, the idea that there's like we don't get any kind of back history or implication that this Stetson character has any relationship at all to our main characters,
right.
So, the ghost movies are traditionally they haunt this house or they are haunting you or something like that. Like, it never really felt like it mattered other than Stetson seems to like Kevin Bacon's character because he's gone through past trauma.
Yeah, he's trying to find. Well, and that's kind of what he says too. Kevin, when they have their confrontation, Kevin Bacon's like, "I didn't do it," and the guy goes, "We both know what you did." Basically just kind of like, I don't have to say it, but no matter what you believe, what you have is not what you deserve, and I will give you what you deserve.
Right. And when we see a lot of like pictures of other people that the
That's
house
true.
is like supposedly claimed or whatever. So I don't buy that the whole thing was metaphorical.
Yeah. It definitely
I would more so take it as, if we're viewing this house as like the devil's work and an extension of hell or something like that, that you have to know your crime before you can suffer for it or something like that,
right.
Just kind of that dragging teeth and making you realize, what you've done. I was thinking at the top of this movie that it might be a thing where he did kill his wife, but like he's blocked out the memory or like somehow convinced himself that he didn't do it or something like that. And so like that maybe the movie could have done a better job at the top of the movie of convincing me he didn't do it.
Yeah.
And then it's a revelation to me and to him as a character
that
when he does find out that he did do it and that he's somehow being punished for that crime. I don't know.
And it gets into like weird like asterisk territory too, because like he didn't flat out kill his wife like people think. He just didn't help her from killing herself.
Right.
She's mixing pills and wine and passing out. Like, if he weren't home, she would have died anyway, but he could have done something to prevent
it's
it.
She did accidentally kill herself, but he certainly had the option to pull her out of that tub. Yeah. Something about the ending of this one, it just didn't land for me.
Right.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think I enjoyed the bulk of the movie up to that point.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the characters were likable, the scares were good, or at least confusing and interesting. You know, I really wanted to know what was going on. And yeah, I just didn't really love what they gave me.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's you should have left. Like I said, I really enjoyed the movie. It's a slow movie, but not in a bad way. But when they do rush, it is almost worse than the slow parts of the movie. You know,
Right.
it kind of like takes away from what the movie was trying to do. And I love the like kind of time stuff, the paradox stuff.
The paradox stuff was cool, and it definitely, you know, just involving any level of like time travel or something, you know, takes that haunted house concept and is doing something unique with it. I like that for sure.
It's something that is terrifying. I mean, especially in like alien abduction movies or anything like that. The loss of time, you know.
Yeah,
there's
that
no
creepy
real
going in a
explanation,
room
but
for
yeah,
5
just-
minutes and it's been 5 hours to everybody else.
Yeah,
you know,
like that.
Actually, I
that's,
wanted
it's just
them
like,
to.
what happened, you know?
I guess they were really only having the time stuff affect him too much, but
Yeah.
when the little girl went in the house and you were kind of waiting for her to come back, you know, they were both outside the house. She ran around, went back in the door, and there was just a half second where she didn't show up, and it was like one of those fake out jump scares. She
Yeah.
comes back in. I was thinking the movie could have taken a really cool direction there with that time displacement, and you know, maybe she doesn't show up or she comes in played by a different actress who's way older or something like that. You know, didn't go that direction, but I was hoping they would push that time stuff a little bit further.
I gotta ask, would you recommend this movie to any of our listeners?
It's so tough. I mean, I enjoyed it 9/10 of the way through, and then at the end there it was a little lackluster. So sure, give it a go. Expect disappointment at the end, maybe, but you'll have a good time for the first little while, you know.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend the movie.
Adam, into the podcast. Movie's done. We got all that stuff out of the way. I feel like this is that little segment where we can there's like 20 seconds left. Let's just wrap this thing.
Yeah, well, you know, we kind of do the segment of the week thing. We become a
I've heard
fan
of it.
favorite. I've got a little game show I'd like to run for you.
Okay, what you
So
got?
let's
Lay it
go ahead
on
and
me.
cue some game show music. Welcome to 5 Degrees of the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon meets the Wu-Tang Clan.
Jesus Christ. Wow, I don't even know how to contribute here.
The next step in our evolution. More powerful, more beautiful. I think I should call him Adam.
Nothing but wit to save the world. Save the world.
Adam.
Wit saves the world.
Assemble.
All right, we're done. Go home.